the other news that came out yesterday, because I thought the lesson that we all learned this week was if you've got a player who's unhappy with his contract and kind of wants out of where he is, and you trade for him, you do the new contract at the time you do the trade, because once you do the trade, the player has all the leverage as it relates to any future contract negotiations. So obviously the Falcons don't have a new contract with Matthew Judon, and there's no plan to have any contract talks. And I'm not going to bash the Falcons for this, because I had somebody from another team explain to me, look, they just expect him to play for $6.5 million. They gave up a third-round pick. And we've talked about this before. There's a total value that you will put on a trade. What do I have to pay the guy, and what do I have to give up? And the more you have to give up by way of draft picks or players or whatever, the less you'll pay. The more you'll pay, the less you want to give up. The fact that they gave up a third-round pick, this is how it was explained to me, the fact that they gave up that much suggests that they fully expect him to come there and play for $6.5 million, that it's a one-year rental, and then they'll have the rights exclusively to negotiate with him after the season. Franchise tags available. That's unlikely for a guy who's going to be 33 next year, but they have his rights for 1 year. They're giving up a third-round pick for 1 year with Matthew Judon, and then after that, we'll see what happens. So presumably they're confident he's going to show up. He's going to be fine. He's even though he clearly wanted a new deal, that's not going to happen most likely. And he'll have a year where he's going to be with a better team on paper, maybe better chances to get double-digit sacks, because a lot of factors go into it, including how good is your offense, and are you building leads that you can then chase the other quarterback around while he tries to come back and win the game. So it may be that the Falcons deliberately said, we know this guy wants a contract, but we're not giving him one, and the third-round pick is evidence that they've got no intent to do that.
Yeah, and we'll see if just the greener pastures of, being with the Atlanta Falcons is something that is incentive enough for Matthew Judon to go down there and actually play and be happy about it. It is interesting because, he said, I'll play on the contract. And then it was still obviously a problem because, he wasn't practicing that time. And, they had whatever was going on between him and Gerard Mayo. I don't necessarily get it, but maybe just that change of scenery is going to be better for him. Atlanta better hope that that's the case, because when you give up a third-round pick, like, that is very significant. The other thing that I thought was interesting, Mike, and maybe this is just because of my own professional background, but when the Falcons announced the trade, like on their website, right, they had in there, this is an agreed upon trade pending the physical, which is just not necessarily something in terms of language that you usually see with the team website. So, usually the physical's got to be done in order for these things to start coming out. And it's got to be, T's crossed and I's dotted and all of this. And so this is probably one of the things that I have been influenced by you upon, where it is, I'm parsing the language of team website releases.
Good.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Yeah, that should be your reaction. But it's interesting to me because they still have to have Judon in the building or wherever they do their physicals, and he's got to get that done. And so that's one aspect of this that is not done yet. At least it has not been announced that it's done.
And he could refuse to show up. And we argued earlier this week that maybe Hassan Reddick should have refused to show up for the Jets physical, that he would have been able to block the trade and, hey, I'll come for the physical if you're going to give me a new contract on the way through the door. Now, he also may have thought, I'll just go do the physical, and then I do have all the power because I'll just stay away from everything, and they've already made an investment in me. They're going to be more likely to give me a contract in order to get me to show up. So he may have made a calculation to report for the physical to then put the Jets in position where, hey, we got to deal with this guy now. We might as well pay him. But that was the first step for Judon. And you're right, we haven't seen any word that it is now fully official, that the physical was passed and that he's a member of the Falcons. But that's the one play, that's the one card that he can flip here and maybe try to play. Let's hear a little bit from Raheem Morris, the coach of the Atlanta Falcons, on this decision to add Matthew Judon in the middle of August.
Anytime you can add a dog, really, to your group and have them be able to come and be a part of that, that is exciting. I think we have excitement for that. I think he has excitement for that. I think a couple of our players that actually know him personally have excitement for that. His reputation precedes himself. You know, the Pro Bowl thing is impressive, but actually going out there and playing against this dog when he was in Baltimore when we were here in 2016, and I remember Mohamed Sanu having to sift him and said, man, I'm not doing that. And he said, let's spread this thing out, man. Let the big people block the big people, man. But having that type of recall from that type of a player and what he does and what he can bring to the table is always fun, particularly when you talk about adding to that group.
Hey, Mohamed Sanu's right. And this is one of the big Chris Sims pet peeves that I've picked up from him over the years. You draw up the play where the tight end or the receiver will be blocking the pass rusher, and it looks good when the O is going against the X, and then you actually play it out, and you get Reggie White literally picking up Chris Carter and throwing him into the legs of Warren Moon, which actually happened on a Thursday night in 1994. We play that clip from time to time. Literally lifts him up and throws him. So, yeah, let the big people block the big people. And Judon has shown over the course of his career that even big people can't block him very well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that had back-to-back seasons of double-digit sacks in the 2 years before 2023, where, again, he was hurt. And even in that season where, again, he was very limited to the injury, he had 4 sacks. I think it was 4 games or 3 games, something like that.
Yep,
so it's
4
not
and 4.
like... Yeah, so it's not like he's been unproductive over the last couple of years when he has been on the field. He definitely makes the Falcons better. He does. So it's just a matter of getting him in the building, making sure he's happy, and making sure he will play on his current deal if they're not going to address that.
Okay, you have a chance to win $1 million in the NBC sweepstakes on Yahoo Fantasy. Just download the redesigned Yahoo Fantasy app or go to NBCSports.com/fantasymillion for additional details. What are you waiting for?
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.